You reach into the fridge on a Friday evening. Your fingers close around a cold can. The metal is so cold it almost stings. You pop the tab with a satisfying crack. You pour the golden liquid into a glass. A thick white head rises. You lift the glass and breathe in the aroma. It smells like grapefruit, pine, and a hint of spice. You take a sip. Bitterness floods your tongue, then fades into a crisp, clean finish. You might think that bitterness is just a matter of tradition. Maybe you assume hops were always used because they preserve beer or taste good. But the real answer is far stranger. The bitterness in that glass is a ghost of a medieval tax rebellion. It is the lingering taste of a middle finger aimed directly at the church. The switch from ancient herbal beer to hop beer was not about flavor. It was a fiscal insurrection disguised as a recipe change. And once you know the full story, you will never taste a beer the same way again. Step back 8 centuries. You live in a small town in what is now the Netherlands or northern Germany. The year is around 1200. You are a household brewer, likely a woman, because brewing was domestic work then. Your kettle hangs over a hearth fire. You malt your own barley. You heat water. And you add a secret bundle of herbs. This bundle is called gruit. Gruit is not a single plant. It is a carefully guarded mixture. Bog myrtle, yarrow, wild rosemary, sometimes heather or mugwort. Each region has its own blend, and the exact recipe is a secret. But you are not the keeper of that secret. Your local bishop is. The Catholic Church in medieval Europe owned a legal monopoly called the gruitrecht. The historian Richard Unger, who wrote the definitive book on medieval brewing, explains how this worked. Bishops and cathedral chapters controlled the production and sale of gruit across vast dioceses. You could not pick the herbs yourself, even if they grew in the wild. You could not buy them from a merchant. You had to purchase your gruit from the official church agent at a fixed price, and that price was far higher than the cost of the herbs alone. The difference was a tax, a heavy, inescapable tax on every single batch of beer you brewed. As Unger documents, the gruit tax became the single most important source of revenue for many bishoprics. It funded the building of soaring cathedrals. It paid for the bishop's lavish household, his soldiers, his political campaigns. Every time you drank a mug of ale, you were paying a direct tax to the church. You were sipping a tithe. But it gets worse. The beer historian Martin Cornell describes how the gruitrecht often sparked literal border wars. Bishops would fight neighboring lords or other bishops over the right to tax the brewers in a particular valley or town. This was not a gentle religious custom. It was a hard extractive economic system that trapped you, the drinker. And it made your ale expensive, heavy, and sweet. Meanwhile, ordinary people were noticing a different plant, a climbing weed with sticky green cones, hops, Humulus lupulus. It grew abundantly along riverbanks, in hedges, on neglected fences. It required no cultivation. No bishop held a monopoly on it. Nobody taxed it. At first, hops were just a wild thing. Some cooks tossed them into soups. But a few forgotten brewers discovered something remarkable. Beer boiled with hops seemed to last longer before it soured. It stayed fresh for weeks, even months, while traditional gruit ale turned sour in days. Today, the science is clear. Hops contain alpha acids and other compounds that kill or suppress spoilage bacteria. But in the 1200s, no one understood microbes. Brewers only saw the practical effect. And then the penny dropped. If you used hops, you did not need to buy gruit. You could simply walk to the riverbank and pick your own, or buy them cheaply from a farmer. No tax. No bishop. Just a bitter, stable beer that cost half as much to make and sell. That realization was revolutionary. It spread like wildfire through the lowlands. The historian Judith Bennett, in her book, Ale, Beer, and Brewsters, traces how women brewers were among the first to switch. They had little capital and narrow margins. The gruit tax ate into their tiny profits. By using hops, they could undercut the price of the taxed ale and still pocket more money. Bennett describes wills and household records that show women rapidly adopting hop brewing between the 1300s and 1500s. It was a grassroots economic rebellion, and the drinkers followed. The taste of hop beer was unfamiliar. It was bitter where gruit ale was sweet. It was piney and sharp where the old brew was floral and smooth. The Oxford Companion to Beer notes that many medieval drinkers found the flavor harsh at first. But money talked. A mug of hopped beer could be sold for significantly less than a mug of gruit ale. Working people, artisans, laborers, they chose the cheaper drink. And with every purchase, they were participating in a quiet collective act of tax resistance. The church fought back. Bishops saw their cash flow collapsing. They condemned hops from the pulpit. They labeled the plant a wicked and pernicious weed. They claimed hopped beer caused melancholy and ill health. In some territories, they pushed through laws prohibiting its use. The city of Cologne banned hopped beer for decades. Inspectors had the right to enter breweries, seize illegal hops, and fine or imprison the brewers. Yet enforcement was patchy. Hops grew everywhere. You could hide them. You could brew at night. You could claim the beer was for your own table, not for sale. The economic incentive was simply too strong. Brewers kept converting. Customers kept demanding the lower-priced beer. The historian Ian Hornsey has calculated that in some regions, the gruit tax accounted for up to half the retail price of ale. When that tax disappeared from hopped beer, the market shifted irreversibly. The cathedrals lost a fortune. The bishop's power shrank. Then came the 16th century and the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther nailed his theses. The old church monopoly cracked wide open. Many northern princes and cities embraced hops as a symbol of breaking from Rome's economic grip. The famous German beer purity law of 1516, the Reinheitsgebot, made hops one of only 3 legal beer ingredients. That law was not just about food safety or quality. It was a political sledgehammer to permanently kill the gruitrecht and cement the hop monopoly. The state effectively said the tax rebellion is now the law, and with that, the taste of beer transformed forever. Now look at your modern beer glass. The IPA you are drinking, with its explosion of citrus, pine, and resin, is a direct descendant of that rebellion. The bitterness you taste is not merely a flavor profile. It is the fossilized remains of a medieval tax loophole. If hops had not been wild and free, if some bishop had managed to slap a monopoly on them early enough, the entire course of brewing history would be different. You might still be drinking a murky, sweet, herby concoction flavored with bog myrtle and taxed by a religious authority. The global beer industry, from pale lagers to hazy ales, owes its existence to a weed that dodged a tax. Every modern craft brewery that features a hop-forward beer is celebrating, unknowingly, a fiscal rebellion. So take another sip, roll the bitterness around your mouth. What you are tasting is freedom, a quiet, stubborn, world-changing freedom that ordinary people claimed one pint at a time. The middle finger won. Your taste buds are the monument. And the next time you crack open that cold beer, the next time you read hops on the can, the next time the sharp, piney bitterness hits the back of your throat, remember that you are not just drinking a beverage, you are drinking a tax revolt, a rebellion that gave you the flavor of independence. And that is the real reason your beer tastes the way it does. And now you know exactly what you are tasting. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. A new story every week.